A little news on Alex Murdaugh and his life in prison came out last week, and so I put this little update together to catch you up on it. Let's get started. This is Legal Updates with Kassidy. Is Alex running his prison? Welcome. We all remember the phone conversations Alex had with Buster back when he was still in Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center awaiting trial. At the beginning, just for his financial crimes. The conversations were so odd because here was his only surviving son. It was mere months after the murders. Alex had detoxed, and that was a big subject. Buster was living in a world that made no sense anymore. He'd been kicked out of law school, one of only 2 male Murdaughs left in his generation, the other being a young cousin, son of John Marvin, who never went near law. His mother and brother were gone, and his dad's in prison, with new charges popping up pretty consistently. Rather than coming clean to Buster, or seeing how Buster was doing, offering him some good life advice, apologizing for all he did, he's calling him up constantly to find out what games were coming up, and or getting stats and scores, and then we find out why. He was gambling with canteen items. And of course, even in prison, Alex wasn't about to start playing fair. He found a guy who didn't get money put on his canteen, so they devised a plan for Murdaugh family members to put money on this guy's canteen and pass it on to Alex after taking a cut. Alex still hadn't learned his lesson. After the murder trial, when Alex was moved into prison, we found out his lawyer, Jim Griffin, was making recordings for Alex to smuggle off to sell to Fox for a documentary. We've now learned in Valerie Bauerlein's book, The Devil at His Elbow, that these smuggled recordings combined with Buster's interview had a payout of $600,000. This money was split between Jim and Buster. So there's a little mystery solved in one way Jim is getting paid. Surely that can't be okay with the law board, right? But all Jim can talk about is Becky Hill's bad behavior. So what came of this smuggling? Nothing at all happened to Jim, and Alex lost his phone privileges for 30 days. So he's long had them back now. We haven't heard much about his prison life since then. FOIA requests to his prison return no phone calls have been made. So no doubt calls are being rerouted somehow, perhaps still through Jim, or some have speculated that Alex might be communicating through his tablet or through a cell phone, because Alex doesn't play by the rules. Last week, on a podcast called Surviving the Survivor, there was a panel of 3 attorneys, one of which was Amy Zimmer, and if she looks familiar, she's Cousin Eddie's attorney, and she had some things to say about Alex in prison.
He's running that place. Let me tell you, he is running that place.
So you were at his prison?
I was.
Wow. Tell us. Come on. Give us the insight.
I mean, just like he did in, so when he was in Alvin S. Glenn, which is the jail in Columbia where they held him, going back to what Sarah said about the narcissism that he has, I mean, he is, you know, he is running his own little, he has a side gambling system. He has, you know, they deal with food. And then, you know, he's advising people on appeals and different things like that. I mean, he is living it up in there.
He's texting women on his little iPad, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is crazy. So he's basically like revered in there, is what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
And he has a gambling.
Infamous.
He's running like a gambling thing, and he's
like cards and cards and betting and things like that. But I'll tell you, Alvin S. Glenn is one of the worst state jails that we have, and he was as comfortable as by the 3rd week in there. He knew all of the trustees. He was getting notes and books and things. And I mean, he adapts so very well that one would think that a lawyer that takes private planes to watch the College World Series would not do well and be able to adapt in prison.
Well, birds and feathers fly together.
We also hear an opinion from Amy Lawrence Lovely of the Lovely Law Firm.
Amy,
right?
I mean, Amy Lawrence Lovely, what do you attribute this to? Is he just a total psychopath?
He is a total sociopath. He is a chameleon. He is who he needs to be to thrive and take care of himself. He is running that joint. I have no doubts. He is getting every perk, everything, and not just from from anybody who can give him anything. He's already like schmoozed them and rolled them. True story. But he's just like a total slime ball who's going to figure out a way to weasel through the system no matter where he is or what he is.
Of course, this gets back to Jim, and both he and the South Carolina Department of Corrections have a lot to say about it. Jim says Alex is playing chess all the time and working as a ward keeper's assistant in a state prison protective unit, and according to this article on NBC News, state records also report his position as well, and we'll see that in a bit. Jim continues by saying he said there are really good chess players in there, and that Alex is an affable guy. I'm sure he's made friends. We also learned that Alex has 8 hours out of his cell for these activities every Tuesday to Thursday, and that his unit is separate from the general population, holding less than 100 people. Jim says that from Friday to Monday, Alex is totally locked in his cell with no freedom of movement. Amy Zimmer responded to NBC in text messages saying that she heard these claims from multiple inmates who have been involved with his dealings, but she declined to provide more information. Jim responds with she doesn't know what she's talking about, that Alex is not even housed in the prison that Amy mentioned in the podcast. But I don't think Amy actually named where Alex is. According to what we saw, she did name the place that he used to be held, but she wouldn't answer the question of where he is now. Jim declined to name the correct facility out of fear for Alex's safety and privacy, going on to say that the claim that he's running a gambling ring is laughable because his contact is limited. They don't even have cards back there to my knowledge. And then he adds, the Murdaugh economy rolls on. It's just noise. It doesn't matter, which is rich, based on what we just talked about. Jim smuggling recordings from Alex and getting Buster to interview for over $500,000. I mean, who's made the most money off of Alex, Jim? With your trips to Crime Con that you never had a chance to do before, your ability to do a podcast now based on your connection to Alex, and all of the documentaries that you've spoken on. And may I ask again, who is paying you and Dick to write all of these motions and have hearings in all of these courts? The Department of Corrections spokesperson Christy Shane said that Murdaugh remains in protective custody in a maximum security prison and only interacts with people who live or work in his unit. She called Zimmer's claims not true, adding that there's no record of this lawyer visiting Murdaugh's prison Tuesday or any day in the past 2 years. That the attorney described Murdaugh's behavior, but she has not seen him, nor has she visited the prison in which he is housed since he has been incarcerated. Again, that was the spokesperson for the Department of Corrections. But a quick look at Alex's record shows that he has not faced any disciplinary sanctions since last August, when he was unable to use the phone for 30 days after abusing his privileges. That same month, he also lost his canteen privileges after unauthorized use of another inmate's PIN. That punishment was also only 30 days, and I can't help but feel some kind of way over the little punishment for the kind of behavior that proves that he still thinks he's special, and just the idea that he continues to be able to profit from cheating and lying. His prison report also shows that he started a new job as a ward keeper's assistant, and the only description I could find as to what that is was that they help with the day-to-day running of the prison, which could be so many different things. He's been holding this position for a few weeks, but the record kind of divides it up a few times. I'm not sure why. But this job allows him to earn work credit, which is a way of reducing your sentence according to hours worked. So not sure about those allegations that were made, but definitely some sort of favoritism or lack of good punishment for his bad behavior still seems to follow him, even in prison. This is Kassidy O'Connell saying stay well and stay tuned.